Hello, welcome to us, Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob, and this is an exciting day if you're a fan of the Disciples of Tzeentch, because Games Workshop have just released their Scourge of Ghyran additional rules update for them, and I'm going to be covering all of it in this video, which is exciting. And I hope you like it. Please do leave some comments below if you do. Let me know what you're thinking, if you've been watching them all, if you're excited about the rest, if you're looking forward to new GHB, if you're returning, if you're one of those players who's like, finally, I'm getting back into AOS 4, or if you're someone new, I want to know what sort of people are watching this stuff. I know the Twitch chat are excited. Okay, so Disciples of Tzeentch have been in a very interesting place over Age of Sigmar 4's life so far already. We've had very much a demon build, which got nerfed pretty heavily just near Christmas, although they're still making waves and doing well at events. We've also seen a pretty Zangor heavy build, so much more defensive and much more aggressive build. Now, I think Tzeentch is going to easily be one of the most interestingly changed armies when the new GHB comes out in the summer, which will be a new season, the Scourge of Ghyran, from this summer until the summer of 2026. And the reason that I say that is because obviously one of those key elements of a Tzeentch army, Kairos, his ability and how he interacts with battle tactics is going to change pretty drastically because battle tactics themselves are changing. So it'll be really interesting to see where Tzeentch lands as an army. But they've also got some additional new rules and additional free rules on how you play. And that's great for you as a Tzeentch player as well, because you definitely have at least 2 or 3 ways to play already. This maybe adds an additional one. So you get 2 new battle formations for your Tzeentch army. You got Masters of Fate and Spellweaver Coven. Now, the Masters of Fate gives you the passive Symbiotic Madness, where friendly Arcanite, that keyword Arcanite is located at the bottom of different war scrolls. It's basically non-demon stuff. Friendly Arcanite units' melee weapons have crit 2 hits while they're wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Disciples of Tzeentch demon unit. Now, you normally are taking a Lord of Change or Kairos anyway, even if you are going for a more Arcanite style mortal build. So that's fine. And crit 2 hits is pretty good, especially when you've got a huge weight of attacks. Some of the key elements or key units that we could potentially talk about, obviously, are the new Arcanite War Scroll, which we're going to talk about in a bit. Also, Zangor, although Zangor already have crit 2 hits if they're already in the enemy territory. I think what's interesting about this battle formation is if you're going to take a lot of models, like, for instance, a lot of Kairic Acolytes or a lot of Zangor, this obviously becomes even better because it affects all of those combat units as opposed to just affecting one. I think that's quite interesting, especially for building a bunch of Arcanites or building a bunch of Zangor and making it so you get crit 2 hits. Very solid, a good crit, so like lots of extra attacks. So that's a good one, I think, definitely for building a new style of army maybe to play. The other one, Spellweaver Coven, is very interesting. It gives you the passive Sorcerers of War, which is a once per turn army in your combat phase effect. You pick a friendly Disciples of Tzeentch wizard that is in combat to be the target. The target can use a non-summon spell ability, as if it were your hero phase, but only the caster or the enemy unit in combat with the caster can be picked to be the target of that spell ability. This is actually really fun because there's actually a load of really interesting things that you can do here. You've got to go and look at what all the spells are, and I'm using Age of Index to go do that. First off, let's talk about Kairos Fateweaver. Let's charge Kairos Fateweaver in. And then let's use Arcane Suggestion. We can pick a unit in combat with us now. That is going to be -1 to hit and wound rolls, or cannot use commands, or -1 to their save rolls. Is quite a useful thing. Charge Kairos in, make an enemy -1 to their save rolls, and then slap them with a bunch of units is pretty nice. A bunch of combat resolution there. The fun one, and shout out to the chat for doing this, is the Gaunt Summoner on Tzeentch. Charge that bad boy in, and he's had an ability that hasn't been very effective because of timing and when you use it. This really changes it up. Like the changer of the ways. Anyway, what you do is you pick an enemy hero in combat with this unit, and then if the unmodified casting roll exceeds the target's health characteristic, it is automatically destroyed. For the rest of the battle, that unit can be picked to be the target of an ability that allows a replacement unit to be set up. So you just charge in with your movement 14 Gaunt Summoner on Disc of Tzeentch. If you bang a big roll, you can just kill an enemy hero outright, which is very cool and super thematic. Then obviously you can use all of the other spells that are in your general spell lore, and you do have 2 different spell laws as well. So you've got the ability to give 5-up ward saves out. You've got the ability to do a teleport, which is also interesting as well. Charge in, do a teleport somewhere else. Really, maybe to try to achieve a battle tactic, which is a very fun idea. Your opponent might look at the board state. You now, with the new progressive battle tactics, you might say to yourself, actually, I could be there. All I've got to do is charge this unit, do the ability, go over there. It's actually very dynamic, and you can do a lot of stuff with it. When you're reading it, it maybe doesn't seem very strong, but it very much keys in far more how I think Tzeentch should play. So this could be really good. And let me know if you've got any combos in your head and leave them in the comments, because I'm pretty interested in this one. I think this could be very cool. So I like that a lot. So yeah, if you are a fan of these battle formations, I'm a fan of these battle formations, and I think you've got a pretty good bunch of upgrades or side grades for your Tzeentch army. So I'd be pretty pleased. Also, you've got 3 new artifacts you've got that you're going to be able to pick from, which is cool. The first one is a mutating blade, which you do in your deployment phase. You pick one of these units' melee weapons, and that weapon's attack characteristic is 2d6 for the rest of the battle. Obviously, like you could roll a double 1, right? And then you'll end up with 2 attacks. But most attacks like kind of top out at like 4 or 5. You could potentially end up with an absolute badass of melee power here. I think that's very fun, super engaging, immediate pick for me, the mutating blade. Very, very, very good, and genuinely very destructive if taken on the right units, like the Ogroid Thaumaturge, maybe taken on the sword on a Lord of Change. The next one, the Arcane Siphon, is once per turn army in your hero phase. You pick a visible manifestation, friend or enemy that was not set up this turn and is within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+, the target is banished, and you heal X, where X is the target's health characteristic. Now, this is also really interesting on something like a Lord of Change. Have it backboarded, like literally cast it the turn before, or turn 1, have it hidden behind you on a turn when maybe the Lord of Change gets into combat. You don't want that to happen, and then bang, you can make it so that you heal a pretty huge amount of health on that unit. It is situational, only happens on a 3+, but is very interesting. The last one, the Spellcatcher Amulet, is once per turn in your army in your hero phase. This unit can use this ability if any manifestation were banished this phase. This unit can use a summon ability from the manifestation where you picked. That summon ability does not count towards the total number of spell or banishment abilities. This is good because this means you're no longer trading, sacrificing banishment for casting, which is okay, especially as you're playing Tzeentch. You probably want to put a lot of manifestations on the board. I guess it's like comes up. It depends on how many times you're going to be banishing, how many times that matters enough that you then also would need to put a manifestation out. I would say that definitely the Mutating Blade is much more fun, and you can do loads more fun stuff with it. Arcane Siphon is also really interesting as well in being able to like heal a huge amount on one of your big birds, which I think is fun. But let me know which one you prefer. I'm really excited to see the Mutating Blade and someone just rolling 12 attacks. And then just going to town on stuff, which will be wild and game-changing as well. You also have 2 new alternative war scrolls, which, if you haven't been keeping track, it does mean that you're going to be able to use the Scourge, Ghyran, Kairic Acolytes, and multiple versions of them. But it means you wouldn't be able to use any of your Index or Battle Tome Kairic Acolytes, or if you were to choose Kairic Acolytes from the Battle Tome or the Index, then you wouldn't be able to use the Scourge or Ghyran versions. So that's the stipulation. You've got to choose one or the other to play with. Very simple. And you've got the Ogroid Thaumaturge and the Kairic Acolytes. We'll talk about the Kairics first, because we think obviously that ties in really well with the battle formation above. There's 10 models in a unit of Kairic Acolytes, reinforceable up to a unit of 20. They've got 1 health each with a 5-up save, and they move 5 inches. So they're both slow and also pretty fragile, but they're also super, super cheap. This version is only 100 points. That 100 points is going to give you 2 attacks, 4s and 3s, no rend damage 1, although that's kind of a lie, because they have the passive empowered by magic. Add 1 to the damage characteristic of this unit's melee weapons while this unit is wholly within 12 inches of a manifestation. So now we potentially could have a unit of 20 with 2 attacks each. So that's going to be 41 attacks with a champion. Hit on 4s, wound on 3s, they're damage 2 with crit 2 hits, and there's a way to add rend to them as well, because once per turn in your shooting phase, once per turn army, you pick a visible enemy unit within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. For the rest of the turn, you add 1 to the rend characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Kairic Acolytes units for the attacks that target the enemy unit. So now we can potentially have like 41 attacks with all out attack, with crit 2 hits, 3s and 3s, rend 1, damage 2. That's a lot of potential output. It's not maybe as scary as some of the other units that we've seen out there, but it's only 200 points to make kind of most of that happen, which is pretty nice. Like, we don't mind that. Obviously, you could also have the ability to do Kairos' spell to reduce down their armor save as well. We could throw a Purple Sun in there for an additional +1, so they could be like pseudo Ren 3. That's pretty scary for your opponent for a unit that's very cheap. My only issue is if shooting's good enough, it's just going to rip up units of Kairic Acolytes very quickly, and they're nowhere near as useful to bring back as the demon side of it. So, yeah. Interesting war scroll, this one. Let me know what you think. The last war scroll is the Ogroid Thaumaturge. Definitely saying that correctly. Now, he is a combat caster with a level 1 caster, so already 100 points, which is great. Well, he's not 100 points. He costs more than 100 points. He is a total of 130 points, which is super cheap. So normally you just pay 100 for a caster, so that's fine. Now, he's got a 5-up save with 8 health, which I would normally describe as a bit fragile. But thanks to the passive Soul Deep Devotion, as long as he's within within a friendly non-hero Arcanite's combat range, so within the combat range of a friendly non-hero Arcanite unit, he gets a 4-up ward save. But obviously, if he takes any damage, he's going to pass that damage off to that unit as mortal damage. It's an ability we see all the time. So this means he's pretty tanky, 5-up, 4-up, only 8 health. Now, they've also condensed his combat profile from like a 3 attacks and 2 attacks, equaling 5 on the other war scroll, to just flat 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wound on 2s, only rend 1. That's pretty sad. But it does have damage 2 or damage 3 on the charge. I would have liked to have seen that be damage 2. Make it a little bit more interesting as a combat piece. Now, talking about getting into combat and getting +1 damage on the charge, he has an ability called Wrath of the Thaumaturge, where once per turn in any charge phase, if this unit is not in combat, you can pick a friendly Arcanite unit in combat with the target and remove that unit from the battlefield and set up again within 1 inch of the target in combat. This unit is charged. So basically, you can screen with a unit or charge in with a unit, and then he can do like a charge or even a pseudo counter charge, and then that's obviously going to proc his +1 damage on the charge as well, right? Which is pretty nice. But I would say it's a bit of an underwhelming profile. You're not building up to intentionally do this, I would argue. I would say this is a nice like have in addition. Like if you want a wizard and then you don't want to spend too many more points and then be able to have like a fun character that can do some interesting stuff and kind of like John Wick backflip and get into a fight, I'd say the Ogroid is a super interesting choice and very, very fun. I wouldn't say you're necessarily building into this, or even that it provides any support for the rest of the army that really means anything consequential. Although, obviously, fun to maybe stick that blade on him and roll 12 attacks. That could be cool. That could be fun. I think I almost kind of prefer the other version of the Thaumaturge, which is interesting. So, that is the update for Tzeentch, and I think Tzeentch have ended up in an okay spot there. They've got a new, better Kairic Acolyte War Scroll and a very interesting Ogroid War Scroll. They've got at least one very, very fun artifact that's interesting to play with, and you've got 2 different battle formations, one of which, the Sorcerers of War, is so tricky and tricksy that I actually think that you're going to see some really devilish combinations come out of people playing this, which would be very fun. And also, it means you can do some really cool long bomb plays. And don't forget, you're playing Tzeentch, so you got Destiny dice as well. Some of these things you can do are guaranteed. That's actually very interesting. So I think you might see some crazy stuff which your opponent, which you as the player playing against them aren't expecting, but you as a Tzeentch player, you can have a lot of fun doing, which is very cool. I hope you've enjoyed these updates. Please do leave a comment if you've liked them, like and subscribe and all that other jazz. And thanks to everyone on the Wargamer Patreon for helping support me, and everyone in the Twitch chat. Always great to do this with a group of people. It's very fun. And I'm also, just as an FYI, I'm really pumped about everything that's happening in AOS at the moment. I think it's really reigniting a lot of chats and conversations, and people are excited about it. There's so many more videos I want to make, so I'm really excited about the whole thing. So thanks for watching and supporting me while I do that.